Hola a todos. En esta clase de hoy vamos a rever el tema de los verbos haber y tener del español. Esta clase es como respuesta a una solicitud de un estudiante para repasar este tema, ¿verdad? Cuándo utilizamos el verbo haber y cuándo el verbo tener y cómo se utiliza cada uno de ellos. Así que en respuesta a esto creamos esta nueva clase de repaso donde veremos algunos ejemplos un poco más avanzados. So today's lesson, this class, is actually in response to one of our students' requests, okay, to Maurice, who had some difficulties when how to use the verb haber in Spanish, mainly with these more complicated sentences. So Maurice, I have transcribed this sentence, same as you sent it to me, okay, and let's translate it into Spanish later, okay, and then we'll talk about the difference between tuve and tenido. Bien, el verbo to have del inglés corresponde a estos dos verbos españoles, tener y haber, ¿sí? El verbo to have puede significar posesión o posesividad cuando decimos I have a car, yo tengo un auto, ¿sí? I have a big house, yo tengo una casa grande. En ese caso, el verbo to have significa tener. Pero, el verbo to have también puede usarse como verbo auxiliar para los verbos compuestos, las conjugaciones de los tiempos compuestos, ¿sí? Conjugaciones de tiempos verbales compuestos. En ese caso, el verbo to have corresponde al verbo haber del español. Por ejemplo, for example, I have gone with you. Yo he ido contigo. I have run very fast. Yo he corrido muy rápido. If I had known. Si yo hubiese sabido. Okay? So, the verb to have, the English verb to have, depending whether it is, whether it implies possession, right, or possessiveness, or whether it implies an auxiliary verb, an auxiliary verb for conjugation tenses, then it will either translate as verb tener or verb haber. So this is what today's lesson will be about. Bien, vamos a ver por ejemplo esta frase complicada del inglés que Maurice nos envió y vamos a traducirla al español utilizando el verbo haber. Bien, significa ejemplo, example. Example. In Spanish, example is ejemplo. Therefore, we abbreviate it with EJ. EJ. Ejemplo. If I had known it was you, I would have stopped and had a conversation with you. So let's translate this into Spanish. So here, as you can see, the verb to have translates in Spanish as haber, because to have doesn't mean possession of anything, right? We are not speaking of having a car, having a house. To have is just an auxiliary verb for these conjugation tenses. So we have to use verb haber. If I had known, si, yo hubiese sabido que eras tú, entonces, now, see, why am I writing these words between brackets? Because the sentence is grammatically perfect no matter whether we include or omit these two words, okay? In Spanish, since the conjugated verb already tells us which is the subject, okay, or who is the subject, then we can omit the subject pronoun, okay? So that's why I put it between brackets, because it's okay if we say it or if we don't say it. And same as in English, the word then, right? We can omit it or include it. In Spanish, it's the same. For example, here it is omitted, right? We can say, if I had known it was you, then I would have stopped. Or we can just omit then. We can say, if I had known it was you, I would have stopped. Okay? Therefore, I have written entonces, which means then, between brackets. Then, entonces, yo habría tenido una conversación contigo. Conversación. This is an N. Contigo, with you. Okay? Good. Si yo hubiese sabido que eras tú, entonces yo habría parado y habría tenido una conversación contigo. Okay? So, had known, right, or I had known, is hubiese sabido. Would have stopped is habría parado. And had a conversation, habría tenido una conversación. Okay? Actually, sorry, had. Here. Had here would be habría tenido. And had or had. Okay? So these hubiese, habría are conditional conjugation tenses, right? Spanish has few more conjugation tenses than English. So here had is the same conjugation in English as simple past, okay? So in English some tenses repeat themselves for different situations. Spanish has more tenses, so we have some tenses that are exclusively for certain types of conditional sentences. This is one of them. Let me remind you, déjenme recordarles que tenemos las lecciones de español de la 130 hasta la 151, dedicadas exclusivamente a los tiempos verbales del español. So let me remind you that our previous lessons from 130 through lesson 151 are dedicated to 22 Spanish conjugation tenses, okay? How to conjugate them and also some examples, right? And how to use them, when to use them. So if you have any doubt or you want to learn how to conjugate in different tenses, okay? Not only simple present, simple past and future, but also the conditionals, imperatives, the subjunctive tenses that are quite more complex. So you can go back to lessons 130 through 151. These are 22 lessons dedicated to Spanish conjugations. Okay? Bien. Entonces, vamos a leer de vuelta. Let's read again. If I had known it was you, I would have stopped and had a conversation with you. This is a hypothetical or conditional sentence, okay? Esto es una oración condicional o hipotética. Por lo tanto, utilizamos tiempos condicionales, ¿sí? Therefore we use conditional tenses. So go to these lessons and see how and when we use conditional tenses in Spanish. Si yo hubiese sabido que eras tú, entonces habría parado y habría tenido una conversación contigo. ¿Bien? So there's another way of saying this. Instead of saying I would have stopped, habría parado, we would say me habría detenido, right? This is perfectly well, right? But usually in Spanish we would choose another way of saying this, right? We would say me habría detenido instead of habría parado. Although this is quite fine. So let's just leave it because this is more identical. It's more a literal translation of the English phrase, okay? Bien. Ahora, otra duda que tenía nuestro amigo Maurice era diferencia entre tuve y tenido. La diferencia entre tuve y tenido. The difference between tuve and tenido. Okay? So both are conjugations of the verb tener, to have. But tener is to have, meaning possession. I have something. You have this. He has that. Okay? Means possessing something. So then, what's tuve and tenido? Tuve is simply the simple past conjugation of the verb tener for the first person of the singular, right? For I, yo, right? So, yo tuve hambre, I had hunger. Remember in Spanish we don't say I feel hungry, we say I have hunger, okay? Yo tuve hambre. Yo tuve un auto muy rápido. I had a very fast car. Or yo tuve que ir al banco. I had to go to the bank, okay? So tuve means to have, conjugated in the simple past and for person I, for the first person of the singular. Tenido is the past participle of the same verb, okay? For example, I had had a black car. Yo hube tenido un auto negro. I had, okay? Or I have had a black car. Yo he tenido un auto negro, okay? I have had to leave early. Yo he tenido que irme temprano. I have had to leave early. Yo he tenido que irme temprano. Yo he tenido que irme temprano. So, he tenido is have had, okay? So, tenido is the past participle of the verb tener, right? And as in English, the past participle applies for all the subject pronouns. Can be I, you, he, she, it, we, they, you, okay? Good. Él ha tenido, okay? Tenido will remain the same. So, when in doubt, remember that all the verbs that end in ido, that is a past participle of the verb, right? One more thing, one more use of the verb to have and tener. So we said that the verb to have can mean a possession of something, like I have a car, can mean an auxiliary verb, right? Like I have eaten, yo he comido, and can also mean an obligation, right, of having to do something. For example, I have to go to bed, right? I have to go to bed. It's an obligation. I have to go to bed. In Spanish, that use of the verb to have, in Spanish we use it or translate it as tener as well, okay? So, for example, I have to sleep. Let's make it simple, a very short sentence. I have to sleep. Yo tengo que Yo tengo que dormir, okay? Yo tengo que dormir. I have to sleep. When we use the verb tener as an obligation of something, I have to, whatever, to do something, okay? We use it with the verb que, right? Now, in the past, I had to sleep early, see? I had to sleep early, okay? We say in Spanish, yo tuve que dormir temprano, okay? Temprano means early. Yo tuve que dormir temprano. I had to sleep early, or I have had to sleep early. Anyway, in English it's very awkward to say I have had to sleep early, right? We simply say I had to sleep early. However, in Spanish, there are some few more conjugation tenses that are used in Spanish than in English. So in Spanish, we can also use the past participle and say this. Yo he tenido que dormir temprano. Okay? Oops. Yo he tenido que dormir temprano. So, sí, tenido, tenido. Tuve, tuve, right? Simple past participle, right? And remember, again, let me repeat this once more. One more time. When we use the verb tener as, or to have, meaning obligation or having to do something, we always in Spanish use this word que after the verb tener, okay? Que, okay? Remember that. Bien, entonces tenemos que el verbo tener puede significar posesión de algo, como yo tengo un auto, yo tengo una casa grande, yo tengo una televisión. Y el verbo tener también puede significar obligación de alguna cosa, de hacer algo. Por ejemplo, yo tengo que ir, yo tengo que quedarme, tú tienes que comer temprano. ¿Bien? Y el verbo haber corresponde al verbo to have en cuanto a verbo auxiliar para las conjugaciones de tiempos compuestos. ¿Sí? Bueno, terminamos nuestra clase de hoy y si tienen dudas recuerden que me pueden escribir y trataré de ir aclarando vuestras dudas lo antes posible. Gracias y nos vemos en la clase que viene. Chao.